Okay, day 3 was actually day 4, but it's just the third day that I've actually been working on it because I took off a day in between. But day 3 on the transmission swap on the Kia Soul. As you can see, I got a nice hairdo here. One day I might find a barber that's open again. I don't know. Anyway, so transmission showed up yesterday. And I got that in, and I unpackaged it. I'll show it on the video here in just a minute. But I purchased this. I'm going to get this wrong. It's like auto mix or whatever. It's an online partner. I'll put a link to them in there because I'm really happy with the service I got from them. The shipping company kind of delayed a couple days getting it to me, but that was that. But anyway, their site was real easy to use. It was real easy to purchase from, and I used Affirm to finance it. And if you haven't ever used Affirm, you might check into that because if you don't feel like just paying out the entire cash amount for something right away, Affirm is a finance company that does a lot of online stuff for all types of companies, Amazon, Walmart, and all that. So you can do that, but it's basically real easy to do, and it gives you some options, and it's cheaper than using a credit card in the long run. So anyway, like I said, yesterday I did the CV axles out and stuff. I did not film taking the wheels all off and all that because I did that in one of my other videos. So if you want to see how I disassembled all the wheel stuff on there to get the CV axles out, you can go watch my video on replacing the CV axle in the passenger side or in the driver's side of the Kia Soul, and you can do that. So I'll kind of show you the transmission here in just a minute. Now, one thing too, when it showed up, it had a tag on it and it had the VIN number of the vehicle it came out of. So I went online and I found a free service. There's a couple of them out there. But I found this one that actually gave me a decent little report for no money. I'll try to go find that link again and put that in there because if you ever want to do this, I mean, it's a fairly decent amount of information for, you don't even have to pay them $1. So I ran the VIN number on the car that the transmission came out of, and this was I knew the transmission was coming from Ohio. This particular car was involved in an accident where it was rear-ended. So there was no front end damage on the vehicle, which meant that I didn't have to worry about the transmission ever being smacked. It also gave me the mileage, verified the mileage that they had claimed was on the transmission. Actually even told me the date that the vehicle was sold in auction, and which kind of gives you an idea of how long it had been since it had been in the wreck, because the date of auction won't be too long after that, because typically it's an insurance thing where the insurance company is paid off the car and then they put it into auction. So this one was auctioned off the 15th of May. And so it was probably involved in a accident sometime towards the end, middle of the end of April. And they said it was like $6,700 worth of damage. So naturally the car was totaled. But anyway, we'll go over the transmission here in just a minute. All right, down here looking at the transmission. I'll have to remove this. This is a shipping bracket they put on here to hold the torque converter in while it's shipped. I'm going to have to pull that out because I've got to change the seal. I went in and pulled the seal out of this side. I've got to pull the one out of the other side. In the car, I already took the bolts out for the starter. The starter mounts right here. And it's these two bolts. It's extremely hard to get to in the car. It's basically, I could see this bolt. I could barely see the head of that one, but once you got down in there with a ratchet, no way you could see it, so it was all by feel. And having to try to reach around through wires and whatever else or cables to get enough leverage to break it free. But once I got it done, I got those out of there. Now, from what the manual says, the starter sits in here, and apparently the engine backplate housing continues to circle around. So I'm supposed to be able to get to the 4 bolts that hold the torque converter to the flex plate. And so we'll take a look at that and see in a little while. So I won't be pulling my jack around, going through the center of the car and trying to lift up a little bit higher where I can get in there to do that. Now, one thing I did notice, so I've got my phone here to kind of film this a little bit, is right up here, there's a lift hook. So one of the things that I have is the issue, because I don't have a 2-post car lift in here, is getting the car up high enough to lift the transmission out. I don't know if I can do this. I've got nitrate gloves on. Yeah, you see that right over there sitting underneath there? That's a transmission jack. It's a scissor one, but it sits probably 10-11 inches when it's all the way down. So that adds another 10-11 inches on the height of this once you're all the way down. That means the car's got to be another foot or something off the ground. And that's kind of hard to do when you're just doing jacks and whatever else. So my thought is, if I can hook to there, I'm going to bring my engine hoist around here and see if it balances there. If not, I can still hook to there, and I can put a strap around the front of the bell housing and make a deal where I can hang the transmission with the engine hoist and do it with the engine hoist way up, and then I can lower down the transmission to the ground, put a little piece of plywood, 3/4 plywood under there, so the oil pan, transmission oil pan, is sitting on it, and then I can drag it out. That's the thought anyway. So, like I said, we'll see how all that works out. Going from underneath, looking at the transmission, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on the housing that will come in from the engine side. So I've got to go under the car and from the engine side unbolt these bolts here. Then from up in the engine compartment through the hood, there's a bolt here where they've got the strap bolted and another bolt here. Then of course you've got your 3 bolts in the back right there that hold the rear motor mount, transmission mount. So that's got to come off there. Now I've also got to look around. There's one plug right here. It looks like maybe a speed sensor, and I got to strap right here and then that. It might be easier for me just to unbolt that and this from the transmission than it is to unplug it. Some of these plugs are kind of hard to do, and so I'll have to undo that out there. Where I think the problem is, and the noise I'm getting, is in this section of the transmission. This is where the differential is, so like I said, it's you only get that noise when the engine's under, when the car's under a slight load, or under a load where the engine's actually pulling the car along. It's not coasting, and it's a rah type sound. It goes away when you let off the gas, which tells me it's not a bearing, because a bearing would make that noise all the time. Also, if it was the pump in the transmission, it would make a high-pitched whining sound all the time. But a differential will have a sound come and go depending on what the load is on the ring gears and stuff in there. So that's what I'm thinking, and hence the reason for the donor transmission. So next, jack up the car, get under there. Alright, I'm basically at a stopping point because I'm going to have to get something else. I've got in the car, I've got the anti-roll brace out. I was able to reach up and pull the starter out of this hole right here. But that engine opening only comes about this far. Okay, hold on just a minute. After I shot this segment of the video, I went and crawled up under the car, took my cell phone, put it on video record, and shoved it up in behind where the starter was mounted in there, and was able to video and then come in and get a still shot of what I was up against in there. Turns out it looks like there's a plastic insert there that I'll be able to take one of the little small pry screwdrivers I got and pop it out, which will then give me full access to getting a socket on those bolts that bolt the flex plate to the torque converter. And so I get those loose, then I should be able to go ahead and get the transmission out before too much longer. So let's get back to the video. Out, which means there's no way you can get a socket on these bolts, and so then there's not enough clearance this way to get a box end wrench in there. So it's going to have to be open end. So I don't have any, but I know that they make a offset open end wrench that goes on a ratchet extension. So basically it would be the forks go in this way, and then I could plug an extension in back here. Once I get this to break loose, I should be able to reach up in there with my fingers and take them out and roll them around, because like I said, you got to get these out. I want to get those out where this is decoupled from the engine before I ever try to take any of these bolts out. And I found it's got two lift hooks back here. There's one here and one right over here. This one almost picks it up level, and it'll probably be okay between that. If not, I can put a chain between that and a strap put around here, and I'll be able to take the engine hoist and lower it to the ground that way, and not have to use a transmission jack, because I just don't have the height to get the car up. So anyway, that's basically about where I'm going to stop today.